Happy Pumpkin Month to all my devious dudes, gruesome gals, and naughty non-binary pals. It's time for a list. Last year I collected some lesser seen and discussed horror and horror adjacent titles, and it went down such a trick or treat that I thought I'd do it again. I'm not one of those clickbait condescenders who's gonna narcissistically infer that their taste and knowledge is more worthy than yours by titling videos something like "blank is the best movie you've never seen." That's garbage, and I don't believe in it. You may have caught quite a few or all of these films that I'm about to talk about, and that's wonderful to me. So let's start writhing on ghouls and talk about the 20 teeth rattlers I dragged up from the depths this year.
Don't know where to make the cut.
Jeff Fahey undergoes an experimental arm transplant and, whoops, turns out that their unlikely limb used to belong to a mass murderer and it hasn't lost its lust for bloodletting.
What is it that makes a man, or a woman for that matter, who is normal in most respects, lose control?
Come for the escalating mania of rational men struggling to reason with the absurdity of their freakish situation, and admire it for its surprisingly earnest attempts at unpacking the roots of violence, but stick it out for the sight of the Lawnmower Man and Chucky here going full-blown bonkers under the influence of their evil appendages.
Can't you see this arm is killing me?
If you've always wanted to see a feature-length version of The Simpsons Treehouse of Horror episode, where Homer's haircut turns him homicidal, Body Parts is just the trash you need. The third and by far least seen of the many Invasion of the Body Snatchers riffs, Abel Ferrara's take on lockstep militarism and corroded individuality is as exquisite as it is underrated.
Mommy.
Here, the warped facade of the idealized American family implodes as teenage rebellion and marital strife come face to face with their emotionless, uncaring copies.
Where are you gonna go? Where are you gonna run? Where are you gonna hide? Nowhere. 'Cause there's no one like you left.
While I can't honestly call this the best version, it is the gnarliest and most searingly angry, kicking violently against bootlicking conformity and blind allegiance, and delivering dozens of shocks in a runtime that barely breaks 80 minutes. Body Snatchers was unceremoniously abandoned by the studio before it was dumped straight to VHS in most markets, which is a goddamn crime for such a scabrous stab at the status quo.
Blink test, take 13. Blink test, take 19. Blink test, take 25. Blink test, take 32.
A failed filmmaker comes into the possession of a box of lost documentary tapes and decides to complete their eerily unfinished story. Only the urban legend contained within seems a little too good to be true.
Authorities report that the strange death of a local man leaves more questions than answers this morning.
Butterfly Kisses is both a sharp found footage feature in its own right, and a mockumentary deconstruction of the whole subgenre. As our struggling director desperately scrambles to prove the validity of the project, industry experts, occult weirdos, and real-world film directors can't help but call shenanigans on his slightly too derivative, overproduced, and conveniently untraceable cursed film.
Because this has been done 1,000 times before, and we think it's a scam. I'm not the only one, it's everyone.
Part subversive critique of the inherent unbelievability of watching theatrically formatted and professionally edited home movies, and a metatextual love letter to the found footage classics that rang brilliantly true. Keep your eyes peeled for Butterfly Kisses. At an isolated cabin in the woods, an enigmatic passerby asks a woman if he can make quick use of her phone. So begins the caller's mind games within mind games and questions answered with riddles in a cat and mouse potboiler where you're never really sure who's the hunter and who's the prey.
stab me with that weight.
Is Malcolm McDowell a stalker, a killer, a vampire, or an honest man with a flat tire?
You can't trust feelings like that. Could just be your own paranoia.
Is Madeline Smith a victim, a heroine, a monster, or a maniac?
You're chopped up. Little pieces scattered to the forest animals.
Shot largely on a single location, the joy is in just how much juice can be squeezed from this most simple, threadbare conceit. Oh, and also the fact that the actual reveal of what's going on is so never guess it in a million years what the hell is going on unpredictable, with its gonzo wackadoo did I just really see that bananas conclusion. It's no wonder this otherwise classy thriller was produced by the man behind Reanimator and Full Moon Pictures. This terrifying triptych, ripped straight from the loins of Stephen King, is as inventive and anxiety-inducing as the man's best work, for the most part. Quitters Inc. has James Woods hiring a shady organisation to help him quit smoking, even if they have to butcher and maim everyone he loves to make sure he kicks the habit.
I don't know what your hoods told you, but I didn't smoke.
If you had lit that cigarette in your mouth, you wouldn't be here right now.
The Ledge sees a megalomaniacal tyrant force his wife's new lover to precariously skirt around the exterior of a blustery skyscraper, all the while doing his very best to ensure this vertigo-stricken sap falls to his death. And the final story is about a baby-faced Drew Barrymore being hounded by a troll. And, well, it kind of sucks. But hey, I've gotta hand it to Cat's Eye, 2 great tales out of 3 ain't half bad. Come True is a Jungian nightmare that renders sleep paralysis and half-awake observations into a visually awe-inspiring glare into the abyss. With its retro-futuristic clash of immaculate stillness, few films have articulated the fuzzy-headed unreality of unconscious surrealism with this much originality and observational insight. There's dread on the periphery of almost every frame, and if it weren't for one big asterisk, Come True would be in the conversation of the best horror features of the last decade. So, what's the problem? Well, the final 60 seconds are so profoundly terrible and so cancerously ill-advised, I'm being deathly serious when I say it's one of the most unearned, cheap, and awful endings in the history of this genre. Do yourself a favour, watch Come True right up to here, then turn it the hell off and bask in the bliss of ignorance. In mid-90s Tokyo, an ongoing spate of bizarre killings puzzle the authorities. All they have in common is an X sliced into the neck of each victim, red-handed culprits with no motive nor memory of their crimes, and an amnesiac drifter who may or may not be involved. Cure is, and I don't say this lightly, one of the most unsettling police procedurals ever made. Disconcertingly protracted shots, roaring ambience, and an atmosphere of creeping dissonance that was so troubling I still couldn't shake it 3 days later. It's rare to feel so gutturally invested in something so ambiguous. As Cure knows all too well, the fears that take root are the ones that defy reason, relatability, or any shred of explanation. Just a malevolent force of indiscriminate agony that may never be understood. A hypnotic, mesmerizing triumph with one of the most chilling villainous turns ever, Cure might well be a masterpiece. If Greta Gerwig had antisocial personality disorder, a horny fascination with corpses, and a budget of about $87, Excision would be her video manifesto.
Can you contract an STD from having sex with a dead person?
A psychosexual tragedy wrapped in body horror and blackheads, Suburbia here has the sickly veneer of greasy hair and fast fashion, where we watch on and tremble at just what happens when a burgeoning sociopath is failed by a world of apathetic adults.
I'd say that you were a very troubled little girl.
I only want you to endure the same gut-wrenching agony during these sessions that I go through every single Sunday listening to your sermons.
This is a feature that calls bullshit on the teen movie trope of using adverse childhood experiences and mental illness as coming-of-age quirks, ratcheting up the uncomfortable awkwardness of adolescence until it ruptures. In doing so, Excision becomes an idiosyncratic oddity, and the spiritual sequel to Heathers you never knew you needed. Two wayward youths, including Martin Sheen in his first film role, terrorise a subway car full of strangers in this ahead-of-its-time, furious polemic screed about the senselessness of hatred.
Come here, man! No, that's a girlfriend!
You're doing that!
It looks like they got hold of a queer.
The incident distills a divided America into an inescapable claustrophobic tube, where each passenger represents a different perspective on age, race, economic, and sexual identity, and asks them one simple question: can you let go of your baseless prejudices and imagined fears to overcome the very clear and present danger that's brandishing a knife in front of you? The answer is as honest as it is upsetting.
And I just want to tell you, I don't like black. Because black's like dirt, you know? I mean, it like smells. What's the matter, don't you believe me? Don't you believe it smells, Jack? Go ahead, ask them! They'll tell you!
An oppressively harsh, powerful look at the pains of progress and the complicity of otherwise good people doing nothing. The incident is still close to home harrowing and depressingly relevant all these years later. Released as an installment of the hit-and-miss anthology series Masters of Horror, Cigarette Burns is an often forgotten piece of the John Carpenter canon, and arguably the only good thing he's made since 1994. Of course, I'm not including his musical career in that statement.
People will understand as soon as I finish my new review.
Is that what this is? All of this? The one review?
Almost finished now.
Playing out as a dirty offshoot of In the Mouth of Madness, as a rare film collector tries to track down a lost film reel which caused everyone who ever witnessed its only screening to go homicidally insane, that will no doubt delight the genre aficionados and Udo Kier fans of the world.
It's the coming attractions of the soul.
While a few too many imperfections get in the way, what with its obvious budgetary constraints and a frankly rubbish leading performance by Norman Reedus, Cigarette Burns is still a humble treat for the Carpenter completionists. The perennial parental phrase, "while you're under my roof you'll do as I say," is taken to its most odious and outrageously grody conclusion when a young Polish immigrant is abducted at the behest of the titular mum and dad. A sadistic, screw-loose pair intent on building a nuclear family of tortured, tethered playthings.
I said to Dad only the other day how I wanted another girl. And look. Here you are.
Think of it as one long Texas Chainsaw Massacre dinner scene, only with a kitchen sink of working-class satire and a perverted streak so wide it even manages to make Christmas into a revolting hovel of depravity.
If you work hard
And you're a very, very good girl. You'll become part of the family. Just like your brother and your sister.
Mum and Dad does a lot with a little in a way that's as charming as it is utterly stomach-churning, and it'll make you think twice about attending that next family reunion. Including a documentary about the industrialized evil of the Holocaust on this list is a testament to how nauseating and necessary this poem of revulsion and reflection is. Everything else I'm going to talk about today is safely consigned to fiction. Night and Fog is a piercing touchstone of real and abhorrent horror, and I will consider it underrated until everyone on Earth endures it. It's a work that takes us step by step through a hulking machine of extermination without once daring to humanise the complicit parties or the mechanised amorality of the Nazi apparatus. Mountains of human hair that stretch beyond the horizon, the rattling frames of the emaciated and obliterated masses. As a species, we need to take this all in. Night and Fog may run just over 30 minutes, but it will never leave and must never be forgotten. It's on YouTube in its entirety, and I've linked it below. A sociopathic clique of pathology students form an extracurricular club with a rancid twist. Each member takes a turn to try and commit an undetectable murder, while the others compete to try and determine the cause of death.
If we could really get away with it, kill anyone? Anyone at all? Kill anyone. Anyone at all.
Like the nepo baby bastard of Flatliners and Less Than Zero, Pathology is amoral, mean-spirited, and just as daft as you'd expect from the pair responsible for the Crank series. There's a dead-behind-the-eyes coldness to these unlikable elitists that you'll either find refreshingly unsentimental or unwatchably hateful, and I can understand either perspective.
You killed him! Oh, Jesus!
If you don't mind sleazy jerks and surgical gore in your how-done-it horror, Pathology's brand of edgelord nihilism and flawed fascinating detachment might hit the spot. An anhedonic woman with chronic intimacy issues, a former army interrogator with a saviour complex, and a struggling musician caring for his unwell mother cross paths and savagely collide in Red, White and Blue. Largely a character study about terminally broken people on the cusp of redemption before their hopes are cruelly stolen out from under them, I honestly don't want to say too much about where this is all going. Suffices to say, there are no happy endings in these three pursuits of happiness.
Man, didn't you understand what I just said? Do you think I'm fucking around here?
An elegy for those who've been disenfranchised and discarded by the supposed greatest nation on earth, Red, White and Blue is acted and executed with a bravery and determination deserving of infinitely more recognition than it has. Just have a stiff drink ready, okay? Because that third act is as crushing as they come.
Authorities are denying any positive connection between the two missing girls and the series of macabre attacks on young female hitchhikers in Queensland and New South Wales.
By transplanting a pair of Americans into the Australian outback, and effectively opting to remake Alfred Hitchcock's Rear Window from the perspective of a long-haul trucker on the lookout for a killer, Road Games isn't scary in the boo, hiss, blood and guts sort of way. No, this is all about tension, paranoia, and a palpable sense of uncertainty dragged across 1,000 miles of cracked asphalt. It also makes delightful use of a spry Jamie Lee Curtis as a passing companion for Stacy Keach's lonesome driver, who may well be one of the most likeable thriller protagonists to ever cross paths with a baddie. I mean, he's got an adorable pet dingo. What more do you people want?
You know, Butchering young girls is one thing. But when you hurt my animal, you made a big mistake, pal.
The commercial dud that went on to win the heart of the likes of Quentin Tarantino, Road Games is a joyride well worth taking. The Louisiana National Guard find themselves waist-deep in a whole world of hurt when they antagonize the local Cajuns in this dirt-caked slog through humid misery. For as much as director Walter Hill insists to the contrary, Southern Comfort is for all intents and purposes a mordant rebuke to the American hubris of the Vietnam War, where a technologically superior arm of imperialism is cut down to size by camouflaged natives who know the terrain and have no qualms whatsoever with merciless retribution.
They dug them up. They dug them all up.
An equally unrelenting companion to Deliverance, Southern Comfort holds a skinned carcass of patriotic platitudes up for all to see. Sphere finds a team of assorted specialists at the bottom of the ocean, investigating a mysterious spacecraft, only for their darkest dreams and wandering thoughts to start taking mind-shredding corporeal form.
Can I ask you something about this reflective surface?
Yeah, it appears to be mercury, doesn't it? Except mercury's liquid at this temperature.
Oh, no, that's not what I'm talking about. What worries me is that it's reflecting everything but us.
Chastised as terrible upon release and slandered by its own cast, Sphere is significantly more ambitious and effective than its reputation suggests. Channeling the terror of untethered imagination into an underwater miasma, there is mood for days here, and more than enough high-concept Michael Crichton to distract from the fact that the third act falls down the Mariana Trench and implodes. Still, with at least two absolutely exhilarating set pieces of squirming nautical nastiness and a boatload of ideas, Sphere is a near miss, but a darn decent attempt. Demon Knight is an endearingly uncategorizable piece of schlock, and it absolutely knows it. Released under the Tales from the Crypt banner as a standalone biblically brazen splattery siege picture, what we have here is candid, daft, and disgusting in all the ways that you'd want a midnight movie to be.
Sorry for the inconvenience, everyone.
It's really like the man said, if you knew who I was.
We'll find out soon enough.
Why wait?
Practical effects galore, a sick sense of humour just the wrong side of tastelessness, and a cast of almost stars, character actor royalty, and B-movie legends, fronted by the one, the only Billy Zane. A man who is so wholly committed to his unhinged antagonist that he may well rank as one of the all-time best bastards of the 90s.
Fuck this cowboy shit! You fucking hold up, well then there, motherfuckers!
So yeah, crack open a couple of cold ones maybe, and watch some footage of Billy Zane.
You know, you ain't such a bad fella. You ain't so bad yourself.
In this British miniseries, a career-focused cop finds himself as part of a clandestine governmental unit tasked with identifying and hunting vampires.
Wooden ammo?
Kelvin.
State of the art.
If you ever wondered, what if the BBC's Luther was about uncovering the old money corporate vampires from the first Blade movie, then Ultraviolet is the obscure show for you, and not just because of an early starring turn for Idris Elba. Handled with an emphasis on gritty realism and grounded practicality way before that was a thing these sort of genre crossovers cared about, Ultraviolet is adorned with so many clever details and cute ways of making the patently absurd seem somewhat believable that it's a crying shame that all we have are these half a dozen episodes.
Can't get enough of these. Drives them crazy. All that eternal youth and no mirrors.
While it certainly shows its age as most 90s television does, you should absolutely track this down and sink your teeth into it. Violation is an unflinching, at times excruciating exploration of sexual violence and betrayal, one that deals with a repellent crime and the soul-killing aftermath of bloody retribution from a feminine and heart-splittingly empathetic vantage point.
You're feeling guilty.
Why would I be feeling
guilty? It escalated really quickly. It never should have happened.
No, it shouldn't. I didn't want it to. You fucked up.
Don't do that.
I was asleep and you fucked me.
Told out of sequence so that we witness the reprisal ahead of the crime itself, the cart before the horse structure expertly reinforces the notion that grief, anger, and pain distort both memory and emotion, and that there is no linear path to resolution or acceptance. With an Oscar-worthy lead performance from writer-director Madeleine Sims-Fewer, and a forensically brutal perspective that is rarely gleaned by the fetishistic, misogynistic films that plague these stories, Violation isn't about forgiveness or peace. It's about obliteration. So those are 20 horror and horror-adjacent films you may or may not have had the chance to catch yet that come highly recommended from me. Don't forget to let me know your underground treasures in the comments below, and I hope you have yourselves a happy Halloween. Some frightful films for our Patreon producers Jennifer C, Claire MD, Becky O, Hales and Rue, Historically Dumb, Jake R, and Nicholas Revere, and a whole stack of monstrous movies for these amazing folks who support us over on Patreon. So how many of these films have you seen? How many do you want to check out after this video? And please recommend me any underrated gems that I've missed for their potential inclusion on next year's list. As always, the best way to help this channel is to share us wherever you can, click the like button and subscribe, and if you're in a position to do so, head on over to our Patreon and sign up to the In Frame Out Film Club, membership to our Discord, and get your name in the end credits. As always, thank you for watching. This is In Frame Out.